Hey y'all, it's Nancy the Handy Scandy. Welcome back for another crafty venture. And today I bring you both the reveal and the process of a very long intentional gel plate printing session. It was over about 4 days, so it is long. It was hard for me to condense it all down, but the reveal is at the beginning, the process is at the end. If you have any questions, let me know. Stick around to the very end because there's some more information and some more intentional planning. And I thank you. Let's go ahead and jump on into it. Good morning, everyone. Welcome in. Welcome in. This is Nancy the Handy Scandy. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome if it's your first time. I invite everybody to go ahead and hit that subscribe button if you have not already. I usually forget to say that, and I find that the majority of my viewers, while I love each and every one of you and I appreciate each and every one of you, most of you are not subscribed, which is fine. I've never been about the numbers, but at the same time, if you like what you're seeing here, if you like what I do and you want to see more, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. You can't ring the bell if you're not subscribed, and ringing the bell alerts you to every time I post a new video. So turning our attention to the gel plate prints, let's go ahead and jump on in. So this was the very first one that I did, and this was when I had the die cuts down and I had Payne's Gray paint. And so I lifted the Payne's Gray paint from around the images, and that was this impression. And then I did a layer of gray as well, and that is me lifting that gray off, but I used this background that I already had. It was just sitting here from a previous gel plate session, so I used it to pull that, and I like that you can see that pattern coming through, because where this one is the book print, this one is actually the gel plate print. This is, of course, in like sepia and black, and then this one is more the ochre and some white in there. And then this is an actual lifting of the other colors of paint, because you can see that it's on the die cuts themselves as well as the background. So this is while they were already down. So on this one, I put the paint down and then the die cuts, and then I lifted the paint from around the die cuts. Same with this one. This one, the die cuts were already down. There's already a layer of the Payne's Gray. You can kind of see it through there. And then I put the umber and the ochre on top of it, brayered it, and then lifted that. And you can tell that because it's all the way around the die cuts and it's on top of the die cuts. So you get a little more vague impression of what's going on, but a lot more color and a lot more coverage. And there are some that I've used, or some prints, like this type of print where I was doing the lifting, that I no longer have. I've used them for other projects, but this was my final print on that. And in the back you can see where I used the punchinella. If you'll recall the punchinella, you can see it even has the same green on there. But the punchinella is on there. There are other things in the background too I used. You really have to kind of tip it to even see the punchinella, and I don't know if that's picking it up for you or not. But it's most visible here and here. So I hope that you're able to see that. And even the cherry blossom came out much better, even though it's dark on dark on dark. What I was going to say was I felt like I had used one of my small circle makers, but the smaller one, but I'm not seeing any evidence on that. So if I did use that, it's so far in the background and it didn't make enough of an impression that it's just not coming through. But those are the dragonfly prints that I have. I think that's really cool. And then this is what my dragonfly looks like now after all of those layers of paint and color. Let me do this. And yeah, it tore a little bit, so I need to see if I can't come back and fix that, because that is beautiful to go on to a project, either side. And then let me see. Here is the cherry blossom. And again, lots of paint on it, lots of color and texture on it now. Oh, there's a little leafy that came from another one. So there are those. Let me go ahead and scooch these aside. And then this one, I don't know how well you can see it. If you tip it in the light, you can see it. But I use the feathers, these 3 feathers. So this one goes right there. And then that one. And that one. But there's also punchinella in the background. There's a stencil in the background. This one definitely has the mark maker, the circle mark maker. But it's all dark on dark on dark, or at least that's how it reads. You can see the punchinella in the feathers. That's really cool. So it's very subtle, but I love it. And you've already seen the feathers, but there's painty, yummy goodness on both sides of all the feathers. And with all the paint, they just get more and more sturdy, so you can continue to reuse them. Now, for this one, this is using these die cuts. This is a die from Simon Says Stamp several years ago. It's absolutely gorgeous. So I had them obviously going opposite ways, and here I used some gold and some shades of green to lift that. And this would be the first layer, and you can see that I put some punchinella on there as well, the pink and the green, because that's what color was on the plate. And then I laid this down, and then I lifted it with this paper after adding some punchinella to it. And those are the only ones I have of that, except this last final. This was the actual pole itself. And you can see all the different layers in there. You can see that beautiful orangey copper in the background. You can see the yellows and the greens and the Payne's gray. It's really, really pretty. You can't see the punchinella. Oh, a little bit right here, but you really have to be looking. And I don't know if that light is going to pick that up for you guys to see that there or not. But in the background, you can see a little bit of suspicious sprouts, which we haven't gotten to yet. But I think it's a beautiful print. I love the way it turned out. All those different layers and all of that texture is just amazing. But I did have others, obviously, because there's more layers of paint than what you see represented here. But as I'm going along, if I don't like the way something looks, then I use it again. Remember, I always say you're one layer away from potential perfection. So I reuse them as I go, so I don't always have the evidence to show you. And then I used this guy multiple times, and some of the leaves fell out, which was on what was on the back of the cherry blossom. So, but doesn't that look stunning? I mean, that's beautiful. And this was on my little 3x5 plate. So let me pull all of these up. So this was one layer where I was pulling the umber, and there was still quite a bit of the paint left, so I went back and I did that again. But I love the way that looks. It looks like a positive and a negative. I think it's lovely, just like it is. And I love, because the die cut is larger than the plate, I love the fact that, well, which way did it go? Go like, yeah, I guess something like that. Why can't I make that fit? I don't know. Anyway, it's too early in the morning. It's like 3:30 in the morning as I film this, so my brain can't work that out. I love the way that the die cut on the print overlaps that border. I think that looks really cool. And then here is another one. This is the first gel plate print that I did with it. And then I use this one to lift a darker layer. And then I use this one to lift a layer of green. And again, you can see that the die cut was already down because they're paint on the die cut and around it. And again, there was still a lot of paint left. So then I picked it up with this little section down here, and that gave me another negative-ish looking one. I think that looks really cool. Now this was a result of me pulling that. This was the very first part, because you can see there's two different colors there. And then that one and that one. So all the different iterations. That was the very first one because I laid the ochre down and then I put the dye down on it. And then I lifted the paint from around the dye. And you can see that on here because there's all that yellow. And then we've got this one. I think that one turned out really cool. So I did do 2 separate prints with this. And again, I don't have all of these because I've used them on other things. But you can see all that color and depth and the texture and the shine. And then this is the very first one that I did, and I love it so much. I had the Payne's Gray down, and then I put the dye down. Oh yeah, it was like that, because you can see. I mean, look, it almost looks identical with the Payne's Gray and the green on this side, and the Payne's Gray and the green. It's so pretty. There we go. And then if you look closely, you can see some of the circles where I just used, I can't remember which one of these I used. Was it this one? No, it was this one. Yeah, and I just went around and I just touched it onto the plate in several places. I don't know if you can see that or not. It's like picking it up as I tip it. But that one is my favorite. I think that's beautiful. They both look really cool. Different results, right? Again, same processes, different colors of paint, but the same gel plate, the same die cut. Not the same paper. This is mixed media card, and this is the 12 by 12 pattern paper. So, very, very pretty. All right, and then I used this skull die. I don't know where this came from. Do I have another one? Here's the whole die. But I was using my 3x5, so I just wanted something that fit on there perfectly. And that's how this one was cut. I had like 2/3 of it. So, but I think it worked out really well. And I'm just going to show them to you in no particular order. I want to make sure that I have them all. So, all right. So this was me picking up excess paint. So the die cut's already laid down on the stencil. And I added the paint. So you can see the eyes. You can see a little bit of the mouth cut and then the nose. So it's very subtle. Same thing, much more grungy. They're both grungy, just grungy in different ways. But you can see those facial features a little bit. And then that one's very similar. And then that one is really good. Look at all that texture. So I had all of this down on the plate, but it wasn't discernible, like even less so discernible than those. So I added the layer of the green, and then I lifted it before I lifted this guy, because he was, oh, it's so good. It's so, so good. And then that one looks like it was same as that. And then that was the very last one. And there was still a lot of the green down, and so I tried to lift it using black. I think if I had used a lighter color, like a bone color, maybe a titanium buff, something like that, or buff titanium, whatever it's called, I think there would have been more differentiation, but I think it's so cool. And when you tip that, when you're just looking at it, you don't really see a lot, but when you tip it in the light and you see that skull shadow come out, oh, it's so good. It's just so good. And look how cool he looks. He is going to be perfect on something. You will see him on something in the future. And then I tried using several of the little cherry blossoms, and they were just too delicate. And so as I was brayering on the paint, they just came up with the brayer, and so it was not impactful. It didn't make a good print, so it just was kind of a hot mess. But you can kind of see them on there. And I'm not mad about them just looking kind of mottled. That's not mad. That doesn't make me mad at all, especially for spring with just the green, the yellow, and the white. Both of them pattern paper. I think they'll be pretty on something. And then I had 2 of these leaves laid down. Whoop. And I was able to get this print. Now again, I don't have all the prints that represent the work that went into this, but all in all, I think it turned out cool. Is it beautiful print? No, not at all, but it's a great background for something. And then this one, you can barely even tell what it was. For whatever reason, my little gel plate, my 3x5 that I love so much, was not wanting to release a lot of the paint. So I have several prints like this where the paint was left behind, and I had to go back and pull it with the next print. And it came up. It just didn't come up on the print I wanted it to. So I used this stencil, and for whatever reason, again, my gel plate didn't want to release it all. And I have multiple of these that I've used on other things. For instance, the one with the dragonfly, that was a layer of it. This one was a layer of this process. You can kind of see some of the ochre in there that was from that. So, but where they all are, I don't know. I've just reused them as I went along, and they're not always evident. But I wanted to show you on this. You see where all this paint was left behind on the gel plate? Oh, let me move this guy. It came off on this one. So this particular, I can't remember the name of this stencil. This one I think is called Uncle Joe's Coffee Rings, if I remember correctly. So I laid that down over this, and then I pulled the ochre. No, this isn't ochre. This is sienna and ochre. And there's some of that gray-green in there. And I lifted all of that. And then when I did my final print, you can see the ochre, the sienna, the umber, and then, of course, you can see the rest of this. Isn't that cool? I just think it's so interesting. Gel plate printing is so interesting. And then I played with this little guy called Suspicious Sprouts. And I love it. This one was made by Rhonda, or designed by Rhonda. And if you look closely, you can see where I took a circle mark maker and I tapped it around in the background. But it's, again, it's very subtle. Like I can see 3 here. I can see a couple here. They're all overlapping. There's some here. So I don't know, again, if you can see those or not. If that light is picking it up for you or not. And they're dark on dark on dark, and I apologize for that. But I do love them. I love the way they turned out. I think they're so good. And then I switched gears for a little bit, and I made a bunch of lips. So let me find them. So this is a stencil from A Colorful Life Designs, and I'm just going to show you in order here, and I don't know what came first, but isn't that fun? Just so dang fun. Now here's another example of using that kind of wheel looking stencil to lift this one, or the print of the wheel looking stencil, right? And then there's that one. That's so dang fun. And that one, that's another of those wheel prints in the background. I think that looks really fun. And then look at that one. Isn't that cool? On this one, I laid the masks down because I had this stencil down, and I don't have access to the stencil, but the masks are right here. Because when you buy this from Colorful Life Designs, it comes with both. So I had these laid down on the gel plate because I wanted that bronzy color to show. So I put the bronze color down, then I put these down, and then I braided on a layer of the Payne's Gray. And then I picked that up with this. And that's how I got that. It's really cool. Doesn't that look fab? I love those. And then on this one, I used a stencil that has a Simic writing on it. It is a Vicky Bouton stencil. And I used way too much paint on there, and so that's why it has that ghosty, misty, blurry look. So I don't know what you might or might not be able to see, but it's just kind of mottled color really when you first look at it. If you look closely and you tip it in the light, you can see that there's some scrolly writing, but otherwise you don't get much of that at all. I don't know if you're picking that up or if the camera's picking it up. But there is that one. And then I went to a runes stencil. And this was one of those that I was being intentional about using. And so I've got that one and that one. Those were pickup layers. I was picking up all the paint from the stencil was already down, and then I had braided the paint on and I was lifting that. So there was still earlier layers on there. You can see that yellow coming through. This one was only shades of green that you saw. And then this one again was some of that layer. And this was some of that layer. And then for my final layers, and again, I don't have everything, but because I've used them and reused them, this was my final layer on the 5x7. This was my final layer on the 3x5. And a lot of my color was left on the plate. I don't understand what I was doing wrong that day, because it didn't happen on every layer or on every print. So, but you can see it tried to stick. You can see those holes. That was when I was lifting it. And this is mulberry paper. So that is the runes stencil. And then I played with another stencil from a Colorful Life Designs. And I want to say this one's called Mod Circles, but I'm not sure. But I really, really like it. I love this stencil. There's just something about it. Y'all know I like circles. And you can see there's a layer right here of the fronds. Is it Frolicking Fronds or something like that? I'll show you that one next. But I guess when I was creating, I did the fronds first. And then I did this one next. But I just think it's a happy little print. And I love the subtlety of the color and the shine and the texture. It's just really cool. And that's just a one-off. And then I did switch gears and I used this guy. Now this was picking up several different layers on here. I don't even know if you can tell what it is. It is the fronds. There's other layers under there as well. You can see green and there's pink in there. And I think this was one that I used actually to pick up a layer with these. And then I used it again and again. I think I used it 3 times with this one. But these were my ultimate prints using that. And you can see, does it go there? Does it go there? I'm not sure where it goes. Must go on this side. Yeah, I think that's where it goes. But isn't that cool? And here again, you can see where that piece stayed on the plate. And then it was picked up here. And this corner is right there. Would have been like that. Isn't that wild? So I never get mad when pieces get left behind on my stencil, because it always comes up on a future pull, and it makes it so interesting. But look at that. Isn't that beautiful? I love that. I love the greens and the orange and the pink in there, and then that kind of metallic-y black coming through. So, so pretty. Love that. And then I played with this stencil from Art by Marlene. This guy was used to pick up a lot of different things. So I used it for the Asemic writing. I used it for the wheel. I used it for the one that I'm about to show you. And I think I may have used it for the fronds as well. So this one definitely got used multiple times. And then this is a layer where I was picking up the paint that was on both stencils. Because this was a big, I think it's an 8x8 stencil. So I had the 5x7 plate and the 3x5 plate just sitting like this. And then I just braided that beautiful purple over both of them, and I lifted it with these two, and I think it turned out really pretty. And then these are my ultimate prints, and you can't even see the purple in there anymore. It's just that blue took over. You can see bits and pieces of the fronds that got left behind, but I think that's really cool. But again, let me tip it in the light for you, because sometimes that's when you can see the texture and the pattern. Sometimes the pattern's really subtle if the light's not hitting it. I hope you guys are getting that, because it's those circles that really look like globes. I think it's kind of cool. All right, and then let me see, are we to the end? Almost. I think I'm saving the most interesting for last. Then I used my big stencil. This is, I can't remember if it's from Lavinia or if it's from Whimsy Stamps, but you know, circles. So this is me picking up, there's some pink and some orange and some green. There's some leftover umber in there. And this was where the stencil was already down, so that's why you have where the stencil would be. But I was also lifting it through the holes. That's why you have it where the image is. But there was still a lot of paint left, so I went back with this side, and that's why you have these shapes over here, because it was continuing to pick up the excess paint that was in the holes. And then this same thing, I was just picking up excess paint, and then I went down here and picked up a little bit more. And then this one was even a little bit more. But you can see they're all basically from the same, I don't know, same layer. My words are suddenly leaving me again. It is now 4:35. So, all right, and then this is my last one. This has so many different layers. If you look real close, you can see layers of those circles. You can also see Punchinella. You can also see, wait, what else did I put on there? I can't remember. I did bring these die cuts in, and I laid them down. You can see where I laid them down. I laid one here. And then those were already down, but right here, if you look closely, you can see a little bit of an imprint right there. The paint was almost dry, but I went ahead and I laid it down, and was it this way? Yeah, and I just brayered over it just to make an impression. So it's very, very subtle. But that's probably, I don't know, is it the most dramatic? I don't know. A lot of them are dramatic. But I just love them all. They're so, so pretty. And those, I've shown you all of the die cuts that I played with. And I still have a stack over here. I'm not going to pull them in. But the very last thing I want to show you, in the video I was using a water and paint technique over here. And so this was my very first pull. And so it's a very unique look. You can see where it picked up bits and pieces from previous gel plate plays. And then all the different layers. And on this one, I only spritzed the water. I didn't take a paintbrush to it. I didn't move it around. I let it settle up, and then I let it dry, and then I added another layer. So we've got umber in here. We've got ochre in here. We've got the green gray. And then I think I lifted it with opal white. So you can't see that at all. Well, maybe you can. Yeah, I guess you can. I think that's what turned it opal. But so there's that one. And then my second one, this took several hours. I think there's 4 layers. I think it took 5 hours. So it takes about an hour for each layer to dry. This one was even more, because with this one I actually just started out with my sprays, and then I'd let them dry, and then I'd add some more spray and I'd let them dry, but it wasn't doing what I had hoped it would do. So I think I need to continue to experiment with the sprays and see what I get. But I got frustrated with it, so then I took a brush to it. I got this sopping with water, and then I just went and I let it dry. And then I did another layer, and I did the same thing, and I let it dry. So I did that several times. So you can see the pink, all these areas where it's just like that, that's where the spray stains just kind of pooled up. And they really don't have much of a color except for the shine that came up with my pull layer. So, but there's pink and there's orange, there's some green, there's some gray in there. I think there's a little bit of blue. There's lots of different shades in there that did not even show. So again, let me see if I can't kind of bend it in the light for you. It's pretty thick. The paint is pretty thick on there. So it's pretty cool. And then I did this one completely off screen. I did it actually days later, but I used my 12 by 12 plate, and I used mostly craft paints on this one, and they just weren't doing what I wanted them to do. So I went in with my sprayer, and when it didn't start to sell, I used my brush again and just tried to break it up some. But ultimately, it didn't do a whole lot. And so I took the plate and I literally kind of crunched up the plate so that the paint on top would crackle. And then that gave me some spaces where I could allow the pull layer to shine through. So back here you can see I have like metallic-y oranges. That would be the bronze. And then there's a copper. And then there's a metallic-y pink. And it just, that's where all that metallics come through. All those metallics come through. But also you can see various layers in the back. And I ultimately pulled it with a purple because once I laid down the metallic layers, then I forgot that that was supposed to be my pull layer. And I came back a couple hours later and it was already dry because I didn't add any water to that layer, because my intention when I put it down was that I was going to pull, but I forgot. Anyway, that's why you see this purple back here. And you see like bits of purple over here because that's what I used to pull it. But it almost didn't want to pull because the paint was separating from the paper. But that reminds me of another technique I saw that I will be showing soon. I'm going to give it a try. My intentions for the coming weekend is to try that technique. And basically it's making acrylic paint skins on a silicone mat instead of using your gel plate. I point over here because I've got gel plates sitting over there. But those are my three, just playing with different water techniques. And I'm going to continue to explore those ideas and see what I get. Now, as I said in the beginning, this is a long one. This was literally 4 days worth of gel plate printing, and I enjoyed every single second of it. And I caught most of it on film. It's been very hard to scale back the videos. I've edited out anything that I didn't feel was relevant to the process, and I've sped it up. Most of it is sped up 3 to 4 times. So I have been very intentional in terms of trying to keep it at a manageable length, but it's still like an hour and a half long altogether. But I also know that you guys don't like 2-part sessions. So I went ahead and did it in 2 parts, but all in one video. So you can choose which part you want to watch, but you don't have to watch one part and then try to go find the second part. It's all here in one place. So I hope that works. I hope that meets everyone's needs. The rest of my process portion of the video will be set to music, as I've often done with my gel plate printing. But I just want to walk you through a little bit of what I'm doing. So let's turn the attention again, if you will, to the gel plate on the left. So with that one, I'm playing with water. Water on the gel plate, water with acrylic paints, and this time I'm only using acrylic paints. I actually do 3 different prints using water techniques. 2 on this one. One is completely off screen on the 12 by 12. I don't show any of that process, but that was the last one that I showed at the beginning of the reveal portion of this video. So I just laid down some paper, then I sprayed it. I'm allowing the water to do what it's going to do on the gel plate, and it's kind of pooling and separating, or separating and pooling the ink or the paint that I laid down, and that was a gray green by Liquitex. And after that fully dries, and it takes about an hour for each layer to dry to allow that water to evaporate and fully dry before I put on a new layer. So that's what's going on over there, and you'll see me doing different things. After I do the first pull, then I start using sprays. The first sprays I use are my new Lindy's Magical Sprays, and then I also pull out some sprays from Imagine Crafts. They're called Fireworks, and I also use a few of my Distress spray stains as well. So throwing a lot of different liquid mediums on the second one. Yeah, and I already talked about what I did. So what you see happening on the other two gel plates is basically the same process that you've seen me do over and over, but you never get the same result. And I just love this process. There's something about this unpredictable art that just makes my heart so happy. And I know I'm not the only one, but I would encourage you, if it's something that you're interested in, don't be afraid of it. There's a learning process, right? When you take a class on something, or if you go into something new, you are not expected to already know how to do it, right? You're there to learn. And with gel plate printing, for me, it's been a learning process for years. Like, I learn something new every single time. And depending on where your focus is, where your intentions might be, you're going to learn something different. You're going to learn something new, and it might be something that you've already known, but it clicks in a different way. I don't know. I don't know, because sometimes we can learn the same lesson over and over and over, but it just hits different at different times in our lives. But so typically what I do is I lay some paint down, then I put my stencil down, or in this case I have stencils and die cuts, and then I'll lift the paint from either around the die cut or through the stencil, and then I'll lay more down. And I do that again and again and again until I'm done. And it's always different. It might be one layer or two layers. It might be 4, 5, 6, 7 layers. It just really depends on where I'm at in that moment. If the stencils are sticking, and there's lots of different variables. But I just keep going with that process, and I get what I get, and I don't throw a fit. One thing that I always say, and I always remember, Seth Apter taught me this, is that you are always just one layer away from potential perfection, what you might deem as perfection. I don't believe in perfection, but we use that word a lot, and we use it freely, and we use it in a lot of different ways. But um, yeah, if you don't like something, just use it again. Pull another print, add another layer. You can use matins. You can use something very, very transparent so that you get the texture and maybe the pattern of what's already there, but it changes the color or it changes the intensity. Lots. It's art, y'all. It's art. There are many variables, and the way you play with those variables is going to dictate what your outcome is. So play, learn your mediums, learn your plates, learn your stencils, learn your paints, learn all of it. And the journey is in the learning, the process. It's, yeah, just play, just play. If you want to get it out and play while you watch, I would definitely encourage that. And I want to know, drop a comment downstairs. Let me know where you're at. I know many of you say that you have a gel plate that you've never used or you've not used in years, or you're intimidated by it. I'm going to put this out there right now. I would love to do a live gel plate session with anybody who would like to join. So if you want to, put that downstairs in the comments, because I would like to do maybe like a Facebook meeting room or something like that, where we can all get together in that one room and we can gel plate together. We can talk, we can do it in real time, we can chat. Of course, we have to have our cameras on and that kind of thing so we can see each other and hear each other. But I would love to do that. So if you are interested in that, drop that downstairs in the comments section. And if you have questions, of course, leave those down there. Just regular comments, the whole nine, and stay till the end because I have more to say at the end. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to some music, and we'll just watch the rest of the process. But I hope that you stay. Of course, you don't have to. I encourage you to do whatever it is you feel like you need to do, what your life is kind of demanding of you right now. But I appreciate you and I love you. Did I succeed on my intentions for, for the weekend? Yes, I did. I did. I used a bunch of my die cuts that I had cut out. I used almost all of the stencils that I had intended to use. And my other intention was to play with the water technique. So I got all of that accomplished. And I feel good about that. Oh, and the other intention I had was to use this, my Punchinella, and I used it. I feel like I met my intentionality goal. So I'm pleased with that. So guys, I'm going to let you go because I've been here for a long time. We've been talking about a lot of things, but it's talking art. And it's talking, in my heart, it's talking peace, right? It's talking release and relief. And for me, art is all of those things. Art is a refuge. Coming into this craft room is my happy place. My whole home is my happy place, to be fair. Being with my family, my children, my friends, wherever we are together is a happy place. But this is the happy place for me. This is where I can let go. This is where I can just release whatever pent up, whatever is in me, whatever fears, whatever anxieties, whatever grief, whatever joy, whatever happiness, whatever, right? I can express that in here in a safe way where I know that no one's going to judge me. And I don't have to share it with the world if I don't choose to share it with the world. But I'm very thankful for you guys. You guys are part of my world. You guys are a very supportive and loving and accepting part. And I thank you all. And I'm going to go. Thanks for your patience with me. I know this was a super, super long one. If you have stuck it out to this point, make sure that you put the comment, stuck it out. Put that somewhere in your comment, and I'm going to give away some of these gel plate prints that I've created today. Use the phrase, stuck it out. I will choose some random winners, and then I will contact you and let you know that you won. All right, my friends. Thank you so much. Mwah. Until next time, this is Nancy, the Handy Scandy, and I'm out.